I tried to call them, and neither of them picked up, and then I tried to text both of them, and I didn't hear back. And then, if I remember correctly, I immediately called Alan after that.
So what time of day, this would have been after work, after your errand?
Yeah, I wasn't, my hair appointment was not until 6 o'clock, okay. So I don't know, maybe 6:15, 6:30-ish. Okay. They turned on the TV, okay. And then we knew something terrible was happening.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Julia Janae, joining Judge Ashley Wilcott. Thanks so much for following along with us. That was testimony from a woman who is in a very unique position. She is the mother of the mass shooter, Austin Thompson, but also the mother of one of the victims, James Thompson. Thompson is back in court in North Carolina for day 2 of a sentencing hearing that's been playing out.
And Thompson did plead guilty last month to killing 5 people, including his brother James, and injuring 2 others back in October of 2022. He was 15 at the time, and he now faces a possible sentence of life without parole. Now, because of his age when it happened, 15 years old, he has to have a Miller hearing in order for the court to then determine what sentence can be issued.
Right, what's appropriate due to his age. Let's get you back inside of the courtroom now. One of Austin's teacher is testifying. She's talking about what it was like having him as a student.
He get access to that on the school computers, if you know?
I do not. It was a different time then, a little bit. I know that there's like an updated way now. The county tries to block things like that, but these kids are really smart. So
you would have had to find a way to get to the game, or to get around whatever system there was to find it on the computers there?
Yes.
Okay. Would you characterize him as smart?
Yes.
Okay. I know you said quiet. I kind of asked the first teacher that we just had up here a moment ago, Ms. Bennett, if she had anything that stood out to her at that time that gave her any concern about his behavior. Did you have anything that concerned you about his behavior?
Yeah, there was one instance with another student where I was a new teacher, they didn't know my name yet. Instead of asking me, they kind of snapped at me, like you'd snap at a dog to get its attention.
Like snap their finger at you?
Yeah, snap their finger. And I remember turning and being like, I'm not a dog. Don't do that to me. If you don't know my name, you just ask.
And when you did that, how was that received?
Fine. I think maybe like they were a little embarrassed. It wasn't just him, it was another student who did it as well. But I think they were both they weren't expecting me to say that.
Okay, but they took the correction?
Yeah, they took the correction.
Did they snap at you again?
Never.
Okay. And so seemed to understand what you had told them and not to do that again?
Yeah.
Okay. Now that's a small thing, but was there anything that stood out to you to make you think that there were larger issues at play that you needed to have somebody investigate or deal with him in any way?
No, nothing that, as the previous teacher had said, we're kind of always on the lookout for things like that, just because it can be a major difference at the school. And I can't think of anything that would have made me think to call my admin or even tell like a co-teacher, hey, this was kind of weird. About his behavior. There was one assignment that he had that was more, it's like on reflection, it was a weird
At the
thing,
time it didn't stand up?
But at the time it didn't stand up.
Okay, well, upon reflection, looking at that assignment, what would that assignment have been?
We were talking about color psychology and how different colors are associated with different emotions and all of that stuff. And so it was a basic worksheet where they had to write the color and what it was associated with. And I don't remember what it said exactly. I'm sure somebody has it somewhere. But it was the color red. And I said it meant many things, love, and now I'm blanking. Love, anger, hurt. There's a bunch. I'm sorry, I'm blanking.
Yeah. We're not going to grade that. So.
And he had just wrote anger, like red means anger, and it was just kind of weird because I did say that, but I said a lot of things.
So it was an appropriate response, and I think you said at the time it didn't stand out to you.
No.
Okay, but hindsight being 20/20 and knowing what happened, that's why it raises an issue for you now. Okay. But again, you admit you had said that, and so it was the right answer.
It was reasonable to write. It was, if any other student had written it, wouldn't have thought anything about it.
Right. I want to ask you, you said about the video games, I want to go back to that. How often would he be on the video games in class?
Pretty much every day. I said 2 weeks, but that's really 10 school days of me getting to observe. I recall, like, he would do his work, but then immediately would turn to the video games as kind of like a pastime until, like, the next class started.
Did you think that he was doing the work just to get to the games? Or how would you characterize that?
A little bit, but it's not something I would hold against him personally, just because, like I said, the class had been structured weird. Another teacher had, like, been teaching the other essential parts of the curriculum that were not design or software based, and so it was a struggle for the whole class. Switching from never touching a software to, okay, now we're going to speed run through everything super fast. So a lot of students were doing that, where they did as much to get the credit and then kind of did what they wanted.
So he was kind of doing what all the other students did.
Yeah.
In a normal way.
Yeah.
Okay. On the day, October the 13th of 2022, did he turn in an assignment to you that day?
He did.
Okay. And was that the due date of the assignment?
I don't recall. It might have been, but I typically made things due on Friday, so it might have been the next day it was due.
Okay, so he wasn't late. If anything, he was a day ahead on the assignment.
Yes.
Okay. And so the day that he shows up for class on the 13th, would you say that he was behaving normally?
Yes. The weirdest thing, I guess, is that, so to give context, we were making a burger menu in Illustrator just to get them used to the software, and they were only supposed to have their burger inside done, and I remember his burger was green.
Okay.
Like, the bun was green. It was weird.
Okay, and so that stood out to you as something odd?
Yeah, I've never had a student do that before.
Okay. But he turned in the assignment on time, and other than the color of the burger, it was appropriately done?
Yes, everything was completely right. I even checked in with him on it to ask. It's a simple thing to change the color. And I asked, and he was like, no, it's fine. And I was like, okay, it looks nice to me.
Okay. And so at some point, did you find out about what had happened that the defendant did in the neighborhood?
Yes. I don't really watch the news. I'm also not from here. I'm from Virginia Beach. And so the next day I found out, not a supervisor, but just somebody who has a slightly higher position than me. It's called the CIMC. He came and sat in my class. That wasn't weird. He was one of the co-teachers for one of my other classes. He sat through it and just asked to charge his computer. And I was like, that's fine. I was honestly a little nervous because I thought I was being observed. And then at the end of the class, he told me what had happened. And I didn't even know that heading him fed into Nightdale.
So when you found out what happened and you realized that you taught him, was it a surprise to you?
Yes. I had 2 students missing that day, and the person didn't know who it was, so it could have been either student, and I told him that I had no idea which one it was because they were both good kids. It didn't seem like anything, like nothing was abnormal.
As a result of all of this, has this had an effect on your teaching?
Yeah, it has.
How so?
first-person shooter games are banned in my classroom. All my students now will tell you it's one of my 4 non-negotiables. I'm very, very strict on it. I get really emotional when I see it, just because it reminds me. So I give them a warning, and then I threaten to call their parents, and I unplug their computers.
Is there anything else about this that stood out to you? No? All right. Thank you, and I don't have any other questions, Your Honor.
This is Mr. Thompson.
Thank you, Ms. Solly. Just one quick question for you. It's your understanding and just your experience that first-person shooter games are popular with a lot of kids, I guess especially boys.
Yes, that would be a fair statement to say.
And even boys that you don't have any problems with or troubles with or don't have any issues with are into first-person shooter games.
Yeah, I would say so.
And that's an extremely popular genre of video game, correct?
Yes.
No further questions. Thank you, Your Honor.
Just briefly, while it's a normal thing that people are interested in, given the things that went on that day that the defendant did after this, is that why it is a triggering issue for you?
Yes. It reminds me very much of what happened, just because he did play. And I would also like to say that most kids know they're not supposed to be playing them in school because it's not appropriate.
Okay. Thank you. No other questions?
No further. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Further evidence.
Now, Julia, a second teacher saying on the stand under oath that the defendant, who's now pled guilty to shooting and killing 5 people, was behaving normally at school, no red flags.
Which echoes what his mother said on the stand. No signs, no warnings, no mood swings that day.
It's an interesting case for certain for this judge. Now, before we go to break, we do want to bring you an update out of Arizona. This is on the abduction of Nancy Guthrie. Police are combing through clues in the search for the missing 84-year-old mother of Today Show host Savannah Guthrie. Investigators say Nancy was taken against her will from her home over the weekend.
Now, images from outside of her home that were obtained by News Nation appear to be blood near her front door. Meanwhile, the sheriff's office is investigating alleged ransom notes sent to several news stations, including one of our affiliates, Scripps News Tucson. Here's what the Pima County Sheriff's Office had to say in response to a question about it during Tuesday's news conference.
Follow up on an answer that you gave earlier. You were asked if there were any.
Last question.
You were asked if there was any ransom, and you didn't say no. You said we're following all leads. Does that mean a ransom has come in?
We're following all leads we have. That's all I can tell you.
The alleged ransom notes make a specific demand for several $1 million in Bitcoin and make a specific reference to 2 pieces of evidence at the crime scene, which we cannot authenticate as legitimate. Now, all notes have been turned over to law enforcement.
And police say they have not identified a suspect or a person of interest in this case. There is a candlelight service scheduled for tonight at a local Tucson church as this community is praying for Nancy's safe return. So many other people, of course, joining in on that hope. A Court TV field reporter, Cody Thomas, just landed in Tucson. He's going to bring us a live update from there on the ground, 8 p.m. Eastern, on closing arguments tonight.
Yeah, I don't want to miss that because he will be able to tell us so much more once he's there about what it's like. We do need to take that break now. Up next, a school counselor takes the stand in the teen killing spree sentencing hearing of Austin Thompson. She testifies about what she remembers. Keep it here on your front row seat to justice.
Tonight on Closing Arguments, disturbing new details surrounding the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. We'll bring you the very latest as our experts weigh in.
Closing Arguments with Vinny Politan tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
I just walked in the house, and of course my head's on a swivel because all this stuff is going on, and I didn't see them in the kitchen. I glanced past their bedrooms, and then I walked into our master bedroom, which as everyone knows, that's where I found his body on the bathroom floor.
This was a pivotal witness on the stand inside of that North Carolina courtroom. This mother describing finding one of her sons dead after a mass shooting. Meanwhile, her other son, Austin Thompson, is the killer in this case, in court for a Miller hearing to decide if he should get life with or without parole.
That's right. Right now, we want to get you back to court for more testimony. Austin's career counselor is now on the stand following 2 teachers who have testified that he was seemingly normal, no red flags. Let's see what the career counselor has to say.
I am Laura Wright, L-A-U-R-A-W-R-I-G-H-T.
And Ms. Wright, how are you employed?
I am a career development coordinator for Wake County Public Schools, and I'm based at Nightdale High School.
And what does a career development coordinator do?
It's a fancy word for a career counselor.
Okay.
And I basically work with students to make sure that they succeed in post-secondary plans. Mainly, we have this 4E initiative that we push. Either we're going to enlist them in college, employ them, entrepreneurship, or enlist them in the military, enroll them in college, or entrepreneurship will go straight into employment. And that's what I do every day.
And so that's your job every day?
Every day.
And how long have you been doing that job?
For about 4 or 5 years now.
Okay. Now, we heard just now from Ms. Solog, who said at the time she had only been a teacher for about 10 days. How long had you been a teacher?
At that time, I believe 18, 19 years. I'm currently 22 in education, but I've been a teacher for 18 years before I moved into the career development coordinator position.
Okay, so you taught for 18 years and then transitioned into this career coordinator position.
Correct.
Okay, but still within the school system?
Yes, my office is based in the school, and I work with the entire school body, but as a career counselor instead of a classroom teacher.
All right, so dealing with students, not a new thing for you?
No.
Okay. And in October of 2022, you were employed as this counselor, but did you take on a teaching position within Nightdale High?
Yes, I did. On the first day of school, the teacher of record quit, turned in their keys that morning, and I had a knock on my door to please help. And they were going to do their best to get a teacher, but if I could just do them a favor and teach the class until they can get either a long-term substitute or a teacher hired. And I said, okay.
And so what class did you take over teaching?
Digital design and animation.
Digital design and animation?
Yes.
And is that something that you had experience in teaching before?
I taught previous computer classes during my 18 years, and it was on my license area, so they came to me and said, you could do it. So I said, okay.
All right, well, will you describe generally how that class worked for you?
For me?
Well, your lesson plan as in how it was structured.
So because it's been a long time since I taught that class and we just got thrown into the situation, I taught mainly the foundations of computer, which I knew very well, and I saved some of the complicated things for the new teacher when she was coming, because I knew I would not be there very long. That was my, hope as they could find a teacher, hopefully.
Okay. And when you were teaching that, did the students have access in the classroom to computers?
They did.
Okay. And as a part of their lessons, were they using the computers?
We attempted, but it became very difficult. Due to the fact that the students possess very skillful knowledge on how to bypass the system that Wake County had to keep them off of websites that they're not supposed to be on.
Okay. And was one of the students that possessed this very skillful behavior the defendant?
Yes.
Okay. And what, if anything, drew your attention to the way he was using the computer?
All of his games that he played were the shooting games.
And now, to be fair, was he the only student in there playing those types of games?
He wasn't the only student, but I would say the rest of the class kind of varied in their games, or, they would the football players would be watching plays from ESPN. The girls would be watching hair videos. It's like something different that I had, but his was always the same thing.
Okay. And other than this video game and always being engaged in the video game, how would you describe him as a student?
For the most part, very respectful. I constantly had to redirect him at least 3-4 times during a 90-minute class period. He would attempt to acknowledge my redirect. He would say, okay, but sadly, he would lose focus and go right back to playing the video game in a very polite way, but he just went right back to it.
Would you say that he was a goal-oriented student?
I would say so, yes. He wanted to know what he needed to do, in order to get the work done. And I think that was something that he wanted to do in order to get to the thing that he really wanted to do.
Okay. Which was play the games?
Correct.
All right. And I think you kind of said you would have to redirect him. How would he take the redirection?
He would get frustrated sometimes. His desk was directly in front of mine. So if we pretended I had an L-shaped teacher desk just like this, and his seat was diagonal from me, right like there. Mm-hmm. And I would redirect him, and he would get on do his work, and I would turn because my computer was here, and I could type something, and I'd turn right back, and Austin was back in the game.
Okay. So while you were watching, he would go to the work, and as soon as you would turn your back, he would be right back to the game?
Correct.
Okay. Now, you've been here for the other teachers testifying. Was your experience with him similar to theirs as far as his behavior and kind of how you viewed him as a young man?
I would say mostly, for the most part. Like I said, very respectful. Other than, deep sighs or a little frustration, he never said anything out of the way or disrespectful. Other than the only issues we had was the constant redirect, do your work. Trying to figure out ways to keep him off the game and do his work was the biggest issue that I had with him.
Okay.
Joining us now to discuss criminal defense attorney Silva Megredician. Thank you, Silva, for joining us. We love having you on. And listen, I've been asking, what is the purpose of these witnesses, the two teachers, the counselor? Because I'm not convinced it's favorable to the state. But now I say, wait a minute, they've all said that he would lose focus. He would play the video games. He would get on the computer when he wasn't supposed to. He was supposed to be in class. And that he was always playing shooting games. Is that a significant fact in your mind for the state or not?
Oh, absolutely, Judge Ashley. First, Judge Ashley and Julia, thank you so much for having me. I love you both. Listen, you guys, I've been a juvenile defense attorney for 18 years. I actually started in the public defender's office here in Los Angeles. These cases, they break me, and they break me because this young man was 15 years old. He's still a boy, but he was 15 years old when this tragedy happened. And watching this has been gut-wrenching for me because I've represented, unfortunately, murderers who were as young as 15. And the frontal lobe, it is not fully formed. It's not an excuse for what happened, but it helps explain. And the fact that this young boy was so obsessed with video games, we see this so much, where a young male boy has an alternate life almost, where he takes the role of the shooter in these shooter games, where he forgets about humanity, where he loses control over what is real. And then sometimes when you add either marijuana or, in this case, when the mother brought up the acne medication, that was interesting to me too, because certain acne medication, there were direct links to either paranoia or hallucinations. So it all brought it together. And the fact that he was absolutely obsessed with the shooting games shows, was there a break in his reality where he was not only killing his brother, who by all accounts there were no issues, where he killed 4 amazing innocent people who were just living their lives? Does it give us a little bit of an explanation, and maybe also a flag, Judge Ashley, that these games can infiltrate the brain and make these kids do things by forgetting about humanity? I think it's actually very good testimony for the state and allows us a little bit of an insight into this young teenage mind.
I want to ask you more about that, Silva, because I'm wondering who it helps more. If we're talking about the video games perhaps creating this break from reality, but we're also hearing testimony from teachers and his mother that he seemed normal, he seemed fine that day, no mood swings, nothing that seemed out of the ordinary, and it's the state that's putting all of this on. Is it because you think that they think this helps the judge say, yes, he was this totally premeditated, out of control person, versus the defense saying that no, there were things that mitigate this, things that caused him to have this snap or this break?
Oh, Julia, I wish we had a full hour to talk about this, right? Absolutely, for both. You know, in 18 years, you guys, my passion for juvenile law is exactly because of this. What helps the state can also help the defense with a different argument. In this case, the fact that they redirected this young boy to come back to reality, but he was constantly going into the lack of reality, the state wants to show to the judge there is no hope for this young man. He is a young boy. He is hopeless. He needs prison for the rest of his life without parole. The defense is going to say, look, we needed safety valves. We needed this child to be separated from these video games. He can be rehabilitated, which is the whole purpose of why we represent children and try to give them a chance to rehabilitate. And if not for these video games, if not possibly for medication, if maybe there was more of a stronghold on what he did with his time, this tragedy that forever changed not only these 4 beautiful strangers that he didn't know, but his brother. And the mother said it beautifully. Her life will never be a normal mother's life. But if there were these boundaries, maybe this child would have never committed the crime. And was it society that might have failed him because there were no safety valves here to prevent this kid from getting completely obsessed? But we're still waiting for the defense's arguments to see what possible explanation there could be with his snap.
Oh, wow. Excellent analysis there, Silva. We do have to step aside, so please stand by. When we come back, that career counselor still on the stand, and she's going to be talking about a color psychology assignment where this defendant said the color he saw was red.
I remember running and screaming, and I went out the same front door that I came in, and I remember saying, they killed him, they killed him.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Judge Ashley Wilcott along with Julia Janae. Thank you for being with us, where we are continuing our coverage and the sentencing hearing for Austin Thompson out of North Carolina. Now, he was only 15 years old when he went on a shooting spree in October of 2022, killing 5 people, including his brother.
Yeah, that was his mother that we just heard speaking. Thompson admitted to the crime during a hearing last month, and now he's waiting to see if he's going to get life with or without parole. And to make that decision, the judge is holding a Miller hearing. That's something mandated by the Supreme Court when someone is under the age of 18 when they commit a crime, and it could be considered cruel and unusual for them to get life without parole, but a judge can hold this hearing and make that decision.
And he has a lot of evidence that he's been listening to, and we've been listening together with him to very emotional testimony from victims' families, from first responders. Let's go back in. Austin's career counselor is still on the stand under direct.
As someone who's been in education for as long as you have and the experience that you have with it, you've heard these other teachers testify about being on the lookout for, as I've termed at red flags or some issues or something that causes concern. Is that something that you were and still do participate in?
Absolutely.
Okay. And at the time, was there anything that stood out to you about the defendant, either his behavior or his work, that caused you any concern?
Other than the need to constantly be on that game, that was the biggest concern. So much so that I had to call in one of our tech gurus to ask them for assistance because it had gotten so bad.
When you say it had gotten so bad, do you mean as a class-wide thing, or is it a defendant-specific thing?
No, the class thing.
Okay.
Like I said, it was just they were playing video games, and that's not something that I do in my classroom. I was trying to figure out how to get it to stop.
And you took every step that you could in order to make that stop?
Yes, like I said, I reached out and asked them for a software program that I know we used to have in Wake County schools, and I was told we no longer had it because I was very good at that software program that allowed me to block all of the different backdoor access they were using. Mm-hmm. It was wonderful. So when I got in that classroom, I was looking for it on the computer and I couldn't find it. So I reached out to someone and asked, where is it? I need it. And they said it was not available anymore.
At some point, did you find out about what Austin had done?
Yes.
And did that have an effect on you in any way?
Yes.
How so?
Just thinking if there was something I could have done, trying to figure out that, did something play a part in this? Just thinking about all of his assignments that he did. Just trying to figure out if it was something that I probably could have, saw or reported.
Or any warnings?
I wouldn't say a warning, but when you look back, I got upset with the class one day and I restricted access to the computer and I made them do everything on paper because I was old school. Mm-hmm. And so one of the assignments was that they had to create a comic book strip and they had to go frame by frame. And instead of letting them do it on the computer, I made them all turn off their computers and I made them do it on paper. Mm-hmm. And they had to have a hero, a villain, however they wanted to write the story. And when I look back at it, his story involved a hero turned villain, and they were shooting some of the characters in the comic book strip. I turned that over.
And that's not something that at the time stood out to you, but again, this hindsight?
It wasn't at the time because of the directions, which he followed the directions. So he did exactly what he was asked, but sadly, afterwards, I'm thinking, could that have been, but I was assured I didn't create the assignment. That was something given by DPI, the CTE curriculum. I followed it, and he did the assignment as asked.
All right, we are going to take a break here. All the kids playing video games, but this particular defendant playing shooting games. Up next, this witness does wrap up her testimony. Stay with us.
What are you reporting?
Fire. The tragic murder of Keith Canero and his entire family.
The defendant repeatedly shot and killed his brother and then moved to murder the rest of the family inside the home.
Their sprawling mansion set on fire.
Paul and Keith were not only brothers but business partners. This one is the most brutal case that I've seen in my experience here.
The Mansion Murders Trial. Live coverage today on Court TV.
What I remember waking up, I remember a male detective sitting there and he said, Austin did this. And, you know, you don't think of that. That's your child. You're like, what? And they're like, Austin did this. He left a note.
Let's get you back to court now for more testimony in the teen killing spree sentencing hearing for Austin Thompson.
So, Ms. Wright, I think ultimately you spoke to law enforcement about your interactions with the defendant, right?
Correct.
And you shared this information with them.
Yes.
And I think ultimately you said that you did not see anything behaviorally that led you to think something like this would have happened.
Correct.
As you sit here today, do you still feel that way?
I do. When I look back, we did everything that we could possibly do, and there was nothing that I could have did more at the time.
And in the time that you dealt with the defendant, did you ever see any drastic alterations in his moods or behavior?
No, he was consistent every day. Same thing every day.
Would you have considered him to be normal in your dealings with him, a normal teenager?
Yes.
Okay. At least in what he presented to you?
Yes, what he presented to me was normal.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions, Your Honor.
Cross-examination. Questions for the defense?
Just a couple of questions, Mr. Wright. Thank you for coming today. I think you had just summed it up with Mr. Latour. Generally, everything that Austin did was normal teenage stuff. Can you have the answer out?
Yes, correct.
And I guess one of the problems with today is kids are constantly on computers or electronics of some form, right?
Correct.
And it's similar with adults. When we have phones, we're constantly on phones and stuff like that, right?
Correct.
Did Knightdale have a policy about phone restrictions while they were at school?
Yes.
What was the policy and rule at that time?
I cannot recall what the policy was then. I can't recall.
Okay. I'm assuming they weren't allowed to have their phones out. I know a lot of schools do. You can do it at lunch or call your parents at the end of the day, but they're not supposed to have their phones out during class. And so when you're in a computer room where the safeguards that you had before about kids not being able to get on these websites was not there anymore, they were able to just go to these websites whenever they wanted, right?
In that room, yes. As I said, this particular program I was looking for was not there, but there were safeguards that were in place. But like I said, there were several students that somehow figured them out. I never had an issue before as much as I did with that particular class, and I believe it's because most of those kids were techies themselves,
right.
So they possessed a higher level of knowledge than most would, so I didn't encounter that as much as I did there.
Okay. So you had the football players watching football, and you said some of the girls watching hair videos, I'm assuming, and then the techies playing games.
Yes, a variety of things, but like I said, I constantly redirected that because that's not how I run the class, which is why they ended up on punishment, and I just took the computers away because it was very difficult for me to control all of that going on with their skill level.
And did you ever get into any career counseling with Austin? Did y'all ever work with him on that end?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Further questions? Yes, sir.
Just briefly, ma'am, we talked about this constant redirection. Was it more for the defendant than for the other students in the class?
Absolutely.
Or was he on par with the other students?
No, it was a little bit more.
Okay.
For Austin. And like I said, he was directly in front of me. So it was, I guess the other kids were a little more skillful in their sneakery, you know. But like I said, it would be immediate for him.
And he was in a tough spot.
He was in a very tough spot.
To be sneakier.
Right, because he's directly in front of me.
Is that by design, or was that just how it happened?
That's just how it happened. When I guess he picked that seat. I didn't give him
Okay.
seat.
Fair enough. But the redirection was more for him than for other students in your estimation?
Yes.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions, Sean.
Thank you, ma'am.
The career counselor done with her testimony. Let's bring back in criminal defense attorney Silva Megardichian with us. Silva, now that you've heard everything from that career counselor who didn't intend to be a teacher that day but was brought in kind of an emergency situation, and she's now a witness in this shooting spree sentencing, what stood out?
I think the redirect really stood out to me, Julia, because the prosecutor really wants to point out that this young boy was absolutely a psychotic, right? That's why he wanted to say, well, isn't it true that he had to be more redirected than the other students? Well, yes, but he was also right in front of me. She kept on saying he was kind of a normal child, but needed that constant redirection, of course, because he was very innocent, in her words, in a way. He didn't know how to hide things like the other students. Plus, he was in a direct sight. It wasn't even that she placed him there because he was a troubled child, right? The prosecutor said, was he supposed to sit there? Oh, no, it was just random. The prosecutor really wants to show almost an animalistic lack of soul character of this child. And the defense was really trying to say, and they did a very good job, you know, but you took away those safety valves. In other words, it was hard for you to prevent him from going on those video games, showing the hypnotic nature, the pull that the video games had on this young mind. I think that actually the testimony was really good. Both sides have their points, but I think it sets up a defense. So when the defense takes over, I think they're going to start next week. They can really start examining and doing the analysis on all of these pressures on the frontal lobe and how this kid had an alternate reality. It's really coming together. But no one won here, Julia, right? Because no matter what, this little boy is going to be in jail for the rest of his life, with or without parole. He's already lost. It's just how long will he be in?
All right, so taking into account that he had a gunshot wound to his head after this and a TBI as a result, traumatic brain injury, Silva, is there any opportunity for the defense to want him to testify, to speak with the court, knowing he says he can't remember the incident?
Right. Absolutely not. It would be highly, highly improbable for him to testify. If the defense does their job right, that young boy should never be on the stand because of the issues that this little boy has, whether this was a snap or as a result of TBI or as a result of everything, frontal lobe lack of development, obsession with shooting games, lack of reality. All of that, the defense's job is to create the picture of the soul of this child, right? The prosecution says he's soulless. The defense has to show the judge he's not a lost cause. He has ability to be rehabilitated. And honestly, there were too many things at play which made him abnormal because he didn't have the proper care or rehabilitative tools to prevent this enormous tragedy. I mean, think about it. The killing the one person he loves most, his brother. The defense has a big job, but it does not need the testimony of this young boy.
Silva, you and Judge Ashley bring out a good point that right now we're not seeing that forensic psychiatry evidence in the prosecution's case because that's going to come in the rebuttal.
Right.
They can't bring in you can't totally go to whatever their defense is going to be, but we're hearing that through this lay person testimony that's coming in. Silva, our thanks to you for being with us this hour. We do have to grab a break, but ahead in our coverage, we're going to keep it here with this sentencing hearing for Austin Thompson. And we're also going to hear about a detective who testifies about these crime scenes. And also we'll get you an update, a big day today in the Mansion murders trial for Paul Canero. He actually became emotional during testimony. We'll have more of that when Court TV comes back.